Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Pink Lady Against Scammers. Hey, guess who's my guest co-host today? Yes,
Me.
Yvette is back. IB Princess 56 on TikTok. How you doing, Yvette?
I'm doing wonderful, guys. I'm totally excited to be here again. And it's more excited because when you send me the information about our guest today, I was searching everywhere. I mean, from Facebook, Google, TikTok, the talk show that he did, YouTube. And I was watching the whole interview on YouTube, and I was like, oh my God, we need to interview this guy.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I was so ecstatic. I was just telling. So today's guest is Jonathan Farley. He was a guest on the Tamron Hall show in 2019 about a romance scam, and he's going to tell us about it in a second. But as I was telling Jonathan when we first signed on here, I said, it's so funny because I got his email on Sunday night, and as everyone knows how my brain works, I'm like, I don't normally click on links from people I don't know, but I did.
Mm-hmm.
And it took us to the Facebook page. And I was like, oh my God. But I'm like, is this a real guy? So I like you, doing my research, Googling, found another way to contact him, sent him a message, said, look, this is the email. Is this really you? And he's, yes, it is. So we were excited. So
Yeah,
anyway,
definitely.
without further ado, everyone, please give a wonderful, warm welcome to Jonathan. Hi, Jonathan.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing well under the circumstances. Thank you for having me.
Yes. And you can talk as long as you want. There's no time limit. When I have great guests, because I know you're going to be a great guest, no pressure. Um, we'll give you all the time you want. And if at any time we ask a question and you don't feel like answering it, just can't answer it, and we move right on to the next top,
Right.
whatever. So again, anything you're not comfortable talking about, you don't have to. So anyway, give us a little background of you. You're a mathematician, I believe.
I am, yes.
I sucked at math in school, but my daughter's very good. So yeah, give us a little background, and then we'll get into your story.
All right. Yes, I'm a mathematician. And in about 11, 12 years ago, I was actually at the University of Maine, and I saw this article about a scandal in Canada because a company had offered some kind of prize as a reward on a radio call-in program. And what was the prize? You would get some kind of voucher, I guess, to use a mail order bride service. And this was a scandal in Canada because everybody thought that these mail order bride services were really just fronts for human trafficking. I looked into it and I thought, oh, it's not. It seems to be the exact opposite.
Oh, wow.
And at the time, I had been moving from one university to another, and I thought, well, I was over 40. I wanted to get married, and I thought, well, I'll have to marry someone who's willing to move because even I don't know where I'm going to be in a year or two. So I looked into it. I didn't use the exact service that won the or that had the prize on the Canadian radio program. I did, I think, contact them, but I ultimately wound up using another one called Elena's Models. And I actually encountered over the internet and in person several women. In one case, it was discussing poetry. Other cases, it was very different because these are all women who ostensibly wanted to get married. So there weren't any games that you would expect on dating websites in America like Match.com or at the time Yahoo Personal,
Gotcha.
something like that.
I
Mhm.
remember Yahoo Personals.
Oh yes, yes.
Oh my God, me too.
Show my
We
age.
give. Uh,
So I ultimately did it. I actually met a few women even in person. I met the parents of a couple of the women also, or at least the people that I thought were parents. But eventually, I found the woman that I married, and despite what I said about the services, uh, I now believe that she was actually kind of a prostitute. Actually, it wasn't at all clear. In fact, it seemed the exact opposite from the very beginning. I thought I had vetted her. I waited 3 years till from our first meeting to actually marry her, but then it was a disaster.
Oh my
I
God.
won't say the worst disaster of my life because something much worse happened actually just over the past year and a half. But at the time, it pretty much destroyed me. And so normally the men who experience this, they keep it quiet. They don't want people to know. I don't want anyone to experience what I experienced. And the particular scam that I fell victim to, I did not see in any of my research on scams. And so I want people to know what it was, and how it was, how I experienced it. And what I found was, I think that people who are analytical are targeted in a particular way because I certainly overthought things. I thought that the woman I married, whose name was Alona Daubscher, at least that's the name she gave, that she could not
Mm-hmm.
be a scammer because at times, for example, I remember once we were in Istanbul and she couldn't remember the directions out of a particular station. And so I thought, well, here's someone who doesn't know even which direction to go. She couldn't possibly have this sophisticated plot to scam me.
Mm-hmm.
Or, and this was a big one, she wanted me to meet her parents or the people she said were her parents. And I did meet these people. And even though I originally met Alona in Russia, in a city called Omsk, a few months after I met her, she claimed that her parents had moved to Turkey. And so I met these people in a city called Alanya in Turkey. And they had this posh apartment, 50 yards or maybe 100 yards from the Mediterranean. I thought that Alona was richer than I was, and that by marrying me, she would be taking a step down. So, of course, she could not be trying to scam me for money.
Right.
And I also thought someone who wants to marry a man for his money is essentially a prostitute and isn't going to introduce him to her parents, right?
Yep.
Because she'd have to explain to her parents, oh yeah, you know what, this guy that I introduced you to, I've just dumped him, but I'm staying in America and keeping a lot of his stuff. No,
Mm-hmm.
but what I now think is the case is that the people she introduced me to were not her parents, but were actors. And so, they say two heads are better than one, three heads are probably better than two, and who knows how many people were part of this plot. And so maybe Alona was not perhaps smart enough to outsmart me, or maybe she was and was even smarter than that. Like the the way Zorro pretends to be a hapless person when he's not wearing the mask. Or she just had a bunch of people working on her side who had they had a well-worn script. They had a script that they'd used before for how to deal with people, especially like me, who overthink things. And so they knew it was going to work. And it almost did. By chance, her plan did not completely work. Fortunately, she did not get the green card. She did not get the permanent visa, at least not through me, but she very nearly did. And I also now believe that she may have planned to murder me.
Oh my God.
Yes, I believe that because I was almost completely fooled until 2 days after I sent her away. Um, and what happened near the end was, so for the 3 years, there were some signs that something was strange. For a lot of the time, we were, of course, in different countries, but she did not want to use Skype, have video calls that often, maybe once a month. And but I still thought
Wow.
she still is interested. So, okay, fine. And when we had the conversations, even though she knew English, the conversations were terrible. So I remember once we were in Rome, and the woman who ran a hotel, I had better conversations with than
Wow.
with Alona, and I thought, well, why is this? But at the same time, what I valued was, while the conversations were dull, we did not have any arguments. Or well, there's one time when we did before the marriage, and uh, again in Rome, I was stepping on her shoes. I think in the Sistine Chapel, I accidentally stepped on her shoes, and she got cross. But um, hours later, she seemed as if she was um, penitent, uh, and it turned out that she had gotten new shoes, and the shoes were literally cutting into her feet, and that wasn't a lie because I could see it. And she, so I thought, okay, I could understand her being upset then. And for me, that's what I valued. So yes, the conversations were dull, but at least we didn't have any arguments. She also, at no point, and this is important for men watching your podcast to know, at no point in the 3 years before we got married did she ask about how much money I made or express any interest in that. But that may be part of their script. Don't ask
This
about his
is
money.
this is funny because I watched your video with the talk show, and you met this person. You married this person. This is a new way of scam because most the time is on the phone with fake videos, fake pictures. This actually you met her and
Yes,
you marry her.
yes. So I met her. So initially, I went to Russia, and I used the website Elena's Models for the city that I was in, which is called Omsk in Siberia. And I actually wrote all the women who were in Omsk on that website, and one person responded, and it was Alona. And then I met her the next day. So one day after contacting her, I met her face to face in a cafe in Omsk. Then she
Mhm.
stayed in touch, even though I thought the conversation was kind of dull. Obviously, yes, she was a young, beautiful girl, but the conversation was dull. And so I'm not going to gaslight your viewers and say that that was unimportant to me.
Oh, well, no,
Mhm.
no, you're,
At the same time,
yeah.
um, she expressed interest, and several months later, she actually said, "Do you want to meet my parents?" And so I thought, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure." And I did fly at that time. She was in Turkey, and I did fly there. And as I said, I met the people she claimed were her parents. They were very friendly, which surprised me. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad they're friendly.
Mhm.
But here's another way that I fooled myself. This may be kind of hard for your audience to understand, but uh, 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, I had a problem with these people who supported the Ku Klux Klan. And I used to live in
Oh my
Nashville,
God.
Tennessee, and it was
Mhm.
over a Confederate statue. They were sending
Mhm.
Confederates. And so when I met the person that Alona said was her mother, she was wearing a T-shirt with a Confederate flag on it. Right?
Yeah.
She was Russian, but she was wearing a T-shirt with a Confederate flag. And so here's how I fooled
Wow.
myself. I was thinking, okay, she knows about my experience with these Confederate supporters,
Mhm.
and she wants to see if I'm going to be triggered by this T-shirt.
React,
And so,
overreact, or something
and
like
so,
that.
there's a photograph of me with the woman Alona said was her mother. Her name was Tatiana, and so I've got my arm around Tatiana, I think, and She has the Confederate flag shirt. But I thought, yeah, who's going to do this? A mother will do this because she doesn't know who she is giving her daughter to. And she wants to make
Exactly.
sure it's a
Yeah.
decent guy who doesn't maybe have anger problems or something like that. So that's how I was able to fool myself that, yes, these are her parents. In fact, it didn't even occur to me that they were not, and that she's serious about wanting to marry me. And I even took Alona's, she didn't speak much, as I said, unlike her parents. Her parents were, even though one of them didn't know English, or at least said she didn't, or at least I was told she didn't, they were more outgoing, exuberant, loquacious, and Alona was the opposite. But children can be different from their parents, I thought. But I thought that this is the reason why they wanted to give their daughter away, because the daughter needed taking care of. That's how I fooled myself. I was thinking that explains everything, because normally, obviously, most fathers aren't that excited to have their daughter marry someone twice twice the daughter's age. Usually, maybe
Yes,
maybe
yes.
if she's
Yes,
marrying
that's true.
George
That's
Clooney,
true.
then
Yes.
or the Prince of England, maybe a father wouldn't care, but an ordinary guy, father might
Yeah.
not like that so much. But both of these people, his name was Arthur and Tatiana, the people Alona said were her parents, they were very friendly, but I thought maybe that's the reason. So I was overthinking things, and that was to my detriment ultimately.
Wow. So
Yeah, go
let
ahead.
me ask you a question here. So all this happening, you more and more confirming yourself, even you trying to don't go in your mind this is a scam. How long that last?
So how long it was since I worked out it was a
You
scam?
was married with her, then
Yes.
you sent her, then you got divorced?
Yes. So the marriage fell apart within months. So even though I met her 3 years before the marriage, her behavior changed radically within about 2 or 3 days after she came to the United States.
Oh my
She
God.
came on May 17, 2016. And my plan originally was for us to get married within 3 days, because you have to get the license and then wait
Yeah.
3 days. And but then she claimed there was some Russian superstition about being married in May, I guess. And so she wanted to get married in June. So we wound up getting married on June 1st, 2016. But within a few days, she was behaving very strangely. For example, she didn't want to stay in the apartment that I had. At the time, I was a university professor in Baltimore, Maryland, and I had an apartment near my university. I could walk to work, but she didn't want to stay there. She wanted a new apartment, even though I had shown her photographs of the apartment before she came to the United States, and I'd explained that the plan was for us to stay there for a year and then get a house, perhaps. But no, she wanted to move out right away. And so I did get another apartment to her liking, and a posh apartment 10 minutes from the inner harbor of Baltimore, which is a posh area. But I also couldn't move in right away because we didn't have all the furniture. So I had to rent a second apartment that was more to her liking. So at one stage, a third apartment. So at one stage, I had 3 apartments, all for her. But I'd done my research, or so I thought, and I thought, yes, she had just come from Russia. The exchange rate from rubles to dollars is such that she might not realize that a particular sum in dollars is really a lot, because the number is a lot smaller than anything she would be spending in rubles. But I figured that after a few months, that's what the books told me that I read, she would understand and curb the spending. And also, I knew that she had just uprooted her life, traveled 6,000 miles, and that I wanted my new wife to be happy and comfortable. So I was willing to spend these amounts, although they were unexpected expenditures. But she started spending enormously. So at one stage, I think I got a $12,000 credit card bill, and I may have gotten two of those. And you might be wondering, how come I can't remember whether it was one or two? It's because it was such a nightmare being with her. That's how much she had changed. So it's clear she got me, and she knew that. She started arguing for the first time. She hadn't for 3 years, and then she was arguing, and she kept asking me to get the documents, and that's how she put it. And I actually didn't quite know what she was talking about, and I'm glad I didn't quite know because I didn't do it. But she actually referred to the green card documents.
Good.
Despite all the research that I had done on this process of getting a fiancé visa, I was not aware that the US government requires you to apply for the green card within 90 days of getting married.
Right.
So that's the reason why there's that television show 90 Day Fiancé. That's the 90 days they're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
But I had not realized that, because I thought that's crazy. I thought you merely had to tell the government you had gotten married, and we got married within 2 weeks of her arriving in the United States, so it wasn't a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But she kept talking about the documents, and I now see that that was really her plan. She sounded like the stereotypical fraudster, the stereotypical scammer, only after she arrived in the United States. In other words, she is completely concerned with getting the green card and not with her husband. But she still knew how to manipulate me. About a week, I think literally the week before I sent her away, she wanted to go to a store that deals with that sells iPhones or deals with iPhones. I bought her an iPhone. I had a flip phone, but she wanted an iPhone, so I bought her an iPhone.
Of course.
And she wanted to have the phone transferred to her own name. And I thought that was strange. They wouldn't do it because she had not had the phone long enough, so it was still under my name. I now realize why she wanted it transferred to her name, because she had planned on taking off. And if the phone was under my name, I could find out who she was calling. I did get a number, but I haven't investigated that number. Maybe someday I will. But she talked to the saleswoman at the store and kept saying, pointing to me as her husband, and she kept saying that, and it's because she knew that I liked the sound of it. So she was actually very good at psychological manipulation.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But
this is getting more and more interesting.
Yes, but I did not actually know that she was a scammer until 2 days after she left. So what happened? The week before, we'd had this argument. She had been berating me. She had been extremely rude for the few months she was there. But it seemed to be at an insane level, like she was goading me, like she was trying to get me to react, because it was so crazy how viciously she was insulting me. And I thought, is she deliberately doing this? There was a website called A Voice for Men, and that gave advice about, or gave stories of men who were about to get divorced, and it said that their wives would sometimes do this to provoke a reaction. And so I thought, she's trying to do that. She couldn't, because I was as cool as a celery stick. But I thought, when she figures that out, then her next step is going to be to just lie. So I made the decision then to move out of the apartment. So remember, I had 3 apartments.
I know.
Which
one I'm going? Let me see which one I'm going.
Yeah, so I had one to move out of. But I didn't let her know that I was doing this. I packed up my stuff, and when she saw that I was packing things up, she said, "Well, are we going to talk?" And I said later, but I just kept packing things up. And then eventually she realized that I wasn't going to come back up to have a conversation about what I was doing. We were in an apartment building with, I don't know how many floors. We were on the 22nd floor. There was a parking garage. And so she came down to the parking garage, and as I was driving away, she jumped in front of my car, and she had what looked like an iPad, and she seemed to be reading something off of it, but I couldn't really tell. I don't know if she was filming me or reading something. But this is what she said. I remember the time. It was 7:11 p.m. A lot of what happened, fortunately, I don't remember. So time does heal some wounds. But she said that maybe I've heard of the Russian mafia. And she said that maybe meaning me, I will wind up in the news. So she's saying that I might be killed, right? She doesn't say it literally, but that's clearly what she's intending for me to infer. I just thought she was angry, right? Because there's no way that my wife could be part of the Russian mafia, I thought. And so I drove away, but there was a great sense of relief when I went back to the other apartment. I bought some groceries for my refrigerator, and for the first time in months, the bill was a reasonable one. Whenever I went shopping with my wife, which was once a week in the supermarket, the bill would be $300. And maybe now that's normal, but this is 2016.
Yeah.
Right.
It was
right.
crazy. And the stuff was all for her. Almost all of it was for her. She would just like fill up grocery carts, and that's how she would shop. Or if we would go to IKEA, she would just like fill up things. And my mother, at one stage, we went to my mother's house, and my mother took her shopping, and she did the same thing. And my mother said she spent $3,000. My mother was buying her this stuff, $3,000 worth in one shopping trip. But it was, even though I was relieved to be away from her, I obviously didn't want a divorce. So we agreed to meet again 2 days after I moved out, and I thought we were reconciling. But instead, and in fact, I had planned for us to go to a book festival in Baltimore, where we were going to meet a Russian author that I knew. But she didn't want to go to that. She wanted to go to a store. And this was
shopping.
This was the store with the dealing with the iPhone. And I thought, okay, yet again, she only wants to go out when I'm buying her something. But we went to a dinner. At the dinner, she was again rude and insulting. At one point, I said, "Look, if we were in the Inner Harbor at a Bubba Gump restaurant, I said, if we were just dating, it would be over now." But she continued being insulting. And then at one stage, I just said, "That's it, it's over. We're getting a divorce." And she had a glass of red wine that she tossed on me, but in the middle of the restaurant. But it seemed like a perfunctory move, like this was something rehearsed. Like her heart wasn't really in it. It was something that she knew to do. And then she left. But again, it was probably all part of a plan in order to try to get a response from me, which she didn't get. I was wearing a black shirt, so it didn't matter. And
Hey, why? Who care? At least your life, and she's out of your life.
Well, I still didn't want, believe it or not, I still didn't want a divorce. So I told her, "Look, let's go to marriage counseling." But she just wanted a divorce. So I told her that I would, provide her with money. This may seem like a trivial sum to you, but I would pay for the apartment. I had to anyway for another year until the lease was over. I would give her $400 a month, that may seem small to you, but I spent less than that just
Oh
myself.
no,
Oh,
So I
yeah.
figured she doesn't need more because that was like twice what I would probably spend. I don't remember,
I
but
mean she
um,
have apartment,
yes,
utility, $400 a month. That's
yeah,
nothing. That's for just get food and shut up.
yeah.
You know.
I would pay for that. I would buy her some cards so she could use the public transportation.
Hmm.
And I actually did give her like $400 right then and there, and or I left it in the mail. Um, but the she just wanted to return to Turkey, and so I bought her a plane ticket. This was a Monday night. I didn't get her message till the Tuesday morning, and bought the plane ticket to Turkey. And then 2 days later, I was to meet her so that we could sign some papers saying we were separating. So I went to a lawyer and we signed separation papers on a Thursday, and then her plane was supposed to be Thursday night. But she had also wanted me to give her $3,000, which I did in addition to that 400. She had originally, I think, asked me for like 50,000, but I said, no, I don't have that. But I figured I'd give her the 3,000 because at that point, I was feeling terrible because I thought I had wrecked a young girl's life. I thought she came all that way to marry me, and then the marriage is falling apart. But I didn't realize that she had been tricking me the whole time, and in fact, the whole 3 years.
She played you
Yeah,
completely.
she
I
played me
mean,
completely.
and you thought that, oh my God, this young lady came out of her nesting to be here with me. You still believe was your fault that all
Yes.
this broke.
Exactly. I felt terrible because I thought I had wrecked her life. But I told her, look, you're 23. It's only been a few months. People might just think you came here for a vacation. In fact, I even gave her leave to meet someone else.
Hmm.
But that evening, I I don't know how it came to be that I took her to the airport. I certainly thought it was my idea, but she probably manipulated me into doing it for reasons that I'll tell you in a moment.
Hmm.
But I decided to take her to the airport. So I went to the apartment and I was to pick her up. Only when I went to pick her up, she wasn't in the apartment. She was downstairs, near the parking garage.
Hmm.
I thought, well, you know what? I want to check the apartment just in case she was angry and destroyed it, and then I'd have to pay
Hmm.
for it. So I went up to the apartment, and my key didn't work. It didn't open the door. So I came back down to where she was, and I wanted to use her key. And then I went up again, and her key didn't work. So I went down again, and I think maybe we went up a third time, but my memory isn't so good. And she tried to use her key, but I told her, look, um, I went to the front desk of the apartment complex,
Building.
and
Hmm.
I told them to get a locksmith. And so I told Alona that I had told the people at the building that to open up the door. And so if anything was damaged, I'll find out. And this is what she said. She said she couldn't possibly have done anything. And I was floored because I felt terrible, awful that I had accused my wife of having done something bad to the apartment. I just felt terrible. That's how good a liar she was. I felt bad that I had even thought that she could have done something like this. And so I took her to the airport. I had a speech prepared. I was even wearing the same suit that I had worn the day I met her. And before I could make that speech, she told me something about how I should just, I should care about other people. And I thought, well, that's a crazy kind of thing for her to say. I had done all this stuff for her just to make her happy. Um, she was supposed to be a stay-at-home wife. That's what she was going to be. But she had only made me one meal, a sandwich, during the marriage. It was a good sandwich, but that was the only thing she had done. Everything else was we went to restaurants and I was buying stuff for her. And the so I didn't get a chance to make my speech to her. She appeared to go through security at that point, but who knows if she did. And I decided to drive back to the apartment to check it out, just to see if she had damaged anything. And at that point, the locksmith had arrived that actually had to remove the doorknob. So she had done something real serious to the door.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked in, and a table was still there. But then when I rounded the corner of the apartment, I saw that pretty much nothing else was. The sofa was gone, the other tables were gone, the bed was gone. There were more tables, more chairs, a mirror, artwork. Well, there was one bit of art that was there, and she had scrawled on it. I took photographs of it, but I don't remember exactly what she wrote now. But it was something like, "In the future, learn to care about others and not just yourself." But I don't think that that was real on her part. I think that was part of the script. You see, she needed me to think that she was just upset and not that I had been the victim of a mafia. But to answer the question you asked many minutes ago, I then realized only 2 days after this, wait a minute, how did she empty the apartment? Remember, I gave you those days because I bought the plane ticket on a Tuesday morning, and this was Thursday. That means she really only had 2 days that she knew for sure she had the plane ticket. I could not have emptied an apartment in 2 days, and I'm an
No
American
way.
who had lived in that city for several years and had a car. She had no car. She was a foreigner in a new city. How did she empty the apartment? She must have had help. And if she had help, that meant there must have been criminals, right? No honest person is going to be helping her empty an apartment in a matter of 2 days. And so if she had help and there were criminals, that is organized crime. Another word for that is a mafia. So I realized only then that that may have been the one true thing my wife had told me, that she was connected to the Russian mafia or some sort of organized crime. So this was devastating to me at that point. And for the next year, I woke up every day angry that someone could have done this to me. And while I don't wake up angry, that only lasted about a year. I don't wake up angry anymore. It did pretty much destroy me.
Damage you completely, not only physical, mentally, and emotionally.
Yes. And
I don't know if you are in the point right now to trusting somebody else or you got over, but it's hard to get over on that kind of stuff.
Yes.
so I've never gotten over it, but I now am wary of scammers. And so I think I've developed a sixth sense where I say, well, for example, if I'm dropping a car off at a car rental place at an airport and some guy walks up to me, this has actually happened a few months ago. He's not wearing a uniform and he wants the keys. And so,
Yeah.
okay, this could be a scam. What if it's just some stranger off the street
Mm-hmm.
take a car? So I now think like that. And while I may not be as harsh against the idea of marriage as I was for several years, I do now recognize the dangers of marriage. And if I were to get married again, it would be with all the things that I didn't want before. There would have to be a prenuptial agreement. It would have to be
Absolutely.
written in such
Background
a way.
check, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
You
it would have,
said that about a background check. I have a quick story to tell you because that was what struck me in the interview. I interviewed a lady last year on my podcast, and the story, she met a guy online. It was started out correct. It's just giving me goosebumps thinking about it. It was terrible. It was terrible, but everything's fine. So she ended up moving back to Texas. And the next guy she started dating, she goes, "Let's go to the police station and get fingerprint."
Mhm.
The guy did not have a problem because she ended up telling him her story. So when you said background checks, I 100,000% support you. Nowadays, dating is scary. I'm
It's
divorced.
scary.
I've been divorced since 2005. I'm happily divorced. And I just can't imagine going out. But that's me. I'm also very content and happy in my life right now.
I'm happily widowed, so I don't
But
even
I like
have
going
no
to weddings.
intention. Yeah,
Yeah.
no
Well,
intention to get married ever.
well, one problem with what I tried, the mail order brides, is that if you can't meet with the person's friends, you don't know much about them really. And as I found out, the friends, or in this case, the alleged parents, might not be. You just have no idea. So I don't really know where things stand because, on the one hand, it could be someone that you've known since childhood, and that person could still, you could marry someone that you knew a long time ago and then they divorce you. Or it could be someone, like in my case, that I
Right.
didn't really know. So it's not really clear what the solution is. But if I were to get married again, it would be with the maximal amount of protections, a
Yes.
prenuptial agreement, all skewed in my favor. And I would just have to tell
You have to
the woman,
protect yourself, your
yeah,
money, your
it has to be
assets, everything. Absolutely. I agree with that. And a lot of people tell me, and I talk with Patsy about that. Oh, you're still young. You need to get no,
I don't
no,
have time. I talk
no.
to scammers every night on TikTok Lives. I can't like,
Um,
oh, honey, I can't go tonight. I'm going to talk to strangers on the internet. That
that's
would
what
be
I
so
I
wrong.
do all the time.
Yeah.
I'm helping victims. I trying to locate the information for them. I do reverse image. I found the real person because in most of our cases, people using people picture to scam and never show the faces or meet face to face.
yes,
Your case is totally different and blow my mind
yes.
how well done these people play you with your emotion,
Yeah, she was great. And she would often, I think, sometimes even just play games. So once we went, one of the rare times she wanted to go out, we went to a festival. It happened to be a Caribbean festival in Baltimore.
Hmm.
But once we arrived, she wanted to leave within about 15 minutes. But on the way out, I talked to her about an incident that had happened to me eating curried goat when I was a child. I choked on some bones, and
Hmm.
a man lifted me up by my feet and shook me till the bone came out. Um,
Good.
and then she claimed that I told her that story 5 times before. Now, I know that I had not. It's one, it's not that great a story. Two, there weren't any occasions when I would be telling it because this is the only one and only time we had been near curried goat.
Right.
I think she was just playing games, maybe practicing telling these kinds of lies. So that's how I learned about gaslighting. And
Right.
so that's what her skill must have been. But to get to the man that I think may have tried to murder me, I got the video footage of from surveillance cameras in the apartment complex. They didn't give me everything that I wanted. It really annoyed me when I discovered this. They said everything had gotten deleted. But I think they were trying to protect themselves from lawsuits.
Yeah.
Even though I told them that I wasn't going to sue them and I'd be willing to sign a document saying I wasn't going to sue them because I really just
Mhm.
wanted the footage. But one of the bits of footage that they did leave me with showed my wife going down to the parking garage at 4:19 a.m. This was, I believe, the day before I sent her away.
Oh wow.
And then coming up with a man at 4:21 a.m. And then they go and use the elevators. And I don't think she was having an affair with this man because of the body language. There were the distance between them.
Distance between them. Okay.
But one of my theories was, okay, was this man going to be in? He's obviously going up to my apartment. What if I had decided to come back to what was still my apartment? And I could have done that at any time because if I had one day left, and I knew that I wasn't going to see my wife again, I might want to reconcile matters and go there. Well, what if I'd found this other man in the apartment? Then clearly I would have told him to go. He probably wouldn't have. There might have been some physical altercation, maybe started by him. And then in that physical altercation, my wife could have taken a kitchen knife and stabbed me in the back, and it would have been
Right.
considered self-defense, the way these things go.
Mhm.
Now, it could also be maybe she was rapidly selling everything off, and this was a buyer. I don't
Or
know.
probably the person that was moving everything.
It could be. I did see on video footage, they didn't send me this, but I saw it when they played it for me originally. Two men carrying off one of the chairs, one of the tables. The table had a very distinctive surface. So I could see from the video footage that this was our table, and two men were carrying it out. But I know that when I took her to the airport, she didn't have all that stuff. So who knows where it went.
I can guarantee you that she saw everything. She pocket that money, extra money. I'm gonna ask Jonathan, they give me $3,000 or whatever money so I can survive, buy the ticket. She have a lot of money, trust me.
Yeah,
She oh,
yeah, that makes
disgusting.
sense because during all these store visits, as I said, she would just like fill up a cart, and I thought you don't even want all of that stuff. For example, once we went to a grocery store and she bought some kind of virtual reality headset, and I thought I didn't even know that they sold things like that in the supermarket. She found it,
Oh, the
bought it,
AI thing,
something like that.
that you put. Yeah, yeah.
And so I think that her plan was just get the sucker to buy all this stuff and then sell it. And then it's pure profit for her. And that's why she kept filling up carts whenever we went to a store. Once she said she wanted a bathing suit. And so we went to a store and she bought $500 worth of bathing suits. I thought she just wanted one. So she's buying a whole bunch. Then I never saw her in those bathing suits.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
Holy cow.
after she left and went back to Turkey, I think you said you haven't had any
That's where the plane ticket was for Turkey.
Okay.
I do believe that she did go back because while I have not looked anything up about her probably since 2017, and the marriage fell apart in 2016, I did see a social media page of a woman she claimed was her grandmother, and there appeared to be a picture of my wife at a wedding, not her wedding, but she was a wedding guest, and she was wearing a dress that I had bought her in the United States. So I'm guessing that she did leave the country, but that's the only evidence that I had that she in fact left the country.
Now, how did you
Wow.
get your divorce since she was out of the country? I'm assuming it wasn't that hard.
It was hard.
Oh,
I did not get the divorce for 3 years because every time there was a hearing, there's one question that they asked, and that's, is your wife in the armed forces of the United States? And I knew that there's no way my wife could have been in the armed forces, but I take these statements, they ask you to swear that you know this thing, and I couldn't say with 100% certainty, only with 99.99999% certainty that she was not in the armed forces of the United States. And so whenever since I couldn't say she was not, they wouldn't grant the divorce. And so
Oh
year
my
after
God.
year after year went by. I think what finally did it was that what finally happened was I saw a story of a woman who had lost $500,000 to a scammer. And I contacted that woman, and she gave me the name of the reporter who had done the story about her, or sent my information along to that reporter. It wasn't where I was living, but that reporter contacted a reporter in Baltimore who then did a story about me. And I think soon after that, I was granted a divorce. I can't say for certain that it was the television coverage that led to it, but maybe the television coverage did have an impact, and they saw that, yeah, this was a case of a guy who was scammed. So let's grant him the divorce. So
yeah.
I got it in 2019.
Um,
Go ahead.
Um, what did your mom think of, well, like when you first met her and you brought her home?
So at one point, the neighbors had a party for us. And after about an hour, I noticed my wife wasn't around. So my mother was there. I was there, of course, the neighbors were there. My wife was not. And so I found out that my wife had feigned some sort of gastrointestinal distress, and she had gone back to our house alone. And so my mother went and was speaking with her. And then my mother came to me and she thought that my wife may have been some kind of spy for Putin. And
Oh my God.
she thought that my wife was lying, that she claimed to have gastrointestinal distress, but I guess from the conversation my mother had with her, my mother didn't believe her. And my mother probably shouldn't have believed her because I now realize that my wife was probably lying. Um, so I, to my shame, got angry with my own mother. I said, there's no way that my wife could be lying. It's crazy that you think that. I apologized to my mother months later, but that was my mindset. So my mother, while she was obviously nice enough to allow my wife to spend $3,000 of my mother's money on a single shopping trip,
Oh my
my
God.
mother was the one who saw through my wife. And this leads me to some more important advice for your viewers. My wife didn't want to meet anybody, right? So when she arrived, it was near the end of the academic year. And I thought, hey, do you want to meet my colleagues at my university? My colleagues were going on a nice trip to a river, a nice natural environment. And then you could meet them and it would be an enjoyable day out in nature. She didn't want to do that. I thought, oh, you want to, I live half a mile away from my classroom. Do you want to go meet my students? She didn't want to do that either. In fact, she feigned being angry at my suggestion that I wanted her to do things like a dog, right? And I thought, like a dog? I want you to meet my colleagues or meet my students.
Wow.
But this is part of her play acting, I now realize.
Mm-hmm.
So why did she feign gastrointestinal distress? She didn't want to talk to the neighbors either, because the more she talks to people, the more they could um, dispel this haze with
Yes.
or eliminate. I guess what's the right expression? Cause me to see what she
Mm-hmm.
really is. So that may be part of the plan that all of these scammers have.
It is because
It is.
when I do talk to them on my lives, I play a character. I don't play myself. And the first thing they'll say is, "Now, don't tell anybody about us." And they always want to make sure you live alone, and don't have any family, maybe, or But it's always about, well, don't tell anybody yet. That's a
Yeah, let's keep
big
it
thing.
private, like keep it secret because I want to make sure that this is working out for us. I mean, she just was trying to isolate to don't give it no answer to the question that people want to ask.
Yes,
So the
and
more private she is, the people don't gonna know nothing about her and nothing that they're gonna put in your head saying she is lying to you.
yes, exactly. So I now know that must have been her plan. Don't talk to his colleagues, don't talk to his students, don't talk to his mother, don't talk to the neighbors,
Yeah.
because they are the people who might actually cause me to realize that she's a scammer. And also, this is um, the reason why the conversation with her was so bad. She was deliberately making the conversations bad because she wasn't telling me anything. So I had almost nothing to go on, so that if I were to find out what she actually was doing, I wouldn't be able to go anywhere, right? Like all I
And
have are the names of these people who may or may not be her relatives, but I know nothing else about her. I don't know her friends, and so I would have almost nothing to go on. And that was the reason why the conversation with her was so terrible, because she was deliberately not giving me information about herself.
And the more you told me the story, I'm thinking and I'm analyzing here. She speak good English to be able to come here. The thing is, she was playing you to be like a no sé lo que habla. I don't know what you're talking about. Let me say this so you get confused and you don't continue asking me questions.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
But she didn't even want to, like, there are two times when we would go out to a movie, and she would then say she didn't want to talk about the movie, that she needs 24 hours to think about a movie before she discusses it, which is ridiculous. One of the movies we saw was Ghostbusters. You don't need 24 hours to ponder that, to discuss it.
right?
Again, it's like, don't have conversations. And so, yeah, this was all part of the plot.
Now,
Hmm.
you said earlier, I guess when she was out of the country, she didn't want to Skype except once a month. Did you ever figure out why?
No, in fact, many of the times she claimed her camera wasn't even working, and so it was just audio. But I think it's for the same reason. The less she spoke with me, the better, the more she could keep hidden. Also, I now suspect that she was probably doing the same trick with other men. And
Correct.
that is the real reason why she could not, she didn't want to talk much, because she was busy ripping off other men. Once she claimed to be on vacation with her family in a place called, I think it was called Altai, but I don't remember now. And so I said, "Oh, can you send me photos?" And so she did send me photos. She sent me stock photos of Altai, not pictures with any people in them. And so I thought, okay, this is just her misunderstanding. But I now realize, no, she couldn't send me photos because she wasn't with the people she said
She
were her parents.
was where she said that where she was, so she have to go to the internet, download picture from the place that she's saying,
Yeah,
and take it or leave it. I mean, that's another way also to scam people. Probably she was in a shithole. Sorry, but that's what I'm calling a little hole with a bunch of scammers trying to planning with the other people,
yeah,
multitasking to send a message to other people.
yeah.
That's how they work.
Or she was on vacation somewhere with some other man. That's what I was
That
thinking.
Yeah.
too. Well, I don't go that far. I think since she planned all this and she was, I mean, she's a good actress. I mean, for everything that you are telling me right now, she was good trying
Yes.
to pretend to be a submissive young woman and everything.
Yeah.
It probably can be we need to plan to get other who's going to be the next victim, so she's involved on this operation in one place with a bunch of computers and phone trying to see who is the next victim. I'm sorry that I'm very honest when I talk with people about this,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because I need that they realize that yes, you become a victim, but at the same time are trying to open your eyes so this don't happen again. You
Yes.
know,
Yeah, I don't want it to happen to any other man, which is why I talk about it rather than just, yeah, because some people would say, oh, it's a very embarrassing. In fact,
no,
one of my brothers even said, no one cares about a 40-something man who married a 20-something woman. And I thought, well, that may be true that no one cares, but that
they
doesn't give
care.
the 20-something woman the right to destroy the 40-something man and steal from him and lie to
Yeah.
Well,
him.
I
But
had a study that men don't like to talk about that they got a scam or use because the macho ego, and I'm a man, this cannot happen to a man, and especially you are a professor, a doctor, professor. How can this happen? I know two lawyers. I know a policewoman. I know another person. It was a psychologist. This happened to anybody. You don't have a special mark to only they target certain amount of people. No, it can happen to anybody.
Well, they're also
Yeah.
good. And I thought I'd researched all the scams, and I did not encounter anything like this, where it might involve multiple people scamming you with the girl meeting you in person. I always
Yeah.
thought the scams were, there's some guy in a basement who is catfishing you, pretending to be a girl,
Mm-hmm.
but he isn't. And then they ask you for money when they're separated. But my wife didn't do that. I met her in person. She introduces me to people she claims are her parents. She didn't ask for any money. Now, she obviously could have figured out that I had some money because I could fly all the way there, but she didn't ask for money. At one stage, I even indicated to her that my employment was sort of unsteady. Now, I've had the same job now since 2013, but at that time, I was thinking of perhaps getting a job in China, and that
Mm-hmm.
didn't phase her. And so I thought, oh yeah, great. This girl is not interested in a green card because I'm saying I might even be working in China. So I'm not
Right.
interested in my money because I'm saying I'm interested in going to China where I'm sure they don't make much compared to the United States. And on top of that, um, she she just it was all fine with her. I now realize that it was all fine with her because she didn't care about me at all.
She don't care.
No.
It's like we always say, Patsy and I, they don't care about you. They care about the mighty dollar, how much they can take from you,
Yeah.
you know. And like when I'm on her live on TikTok and I listen people trying to scam the character that she's playing, uh oh, I'm the prince of Dubai and I have a problem. Can you send me this amount of money, $50,000? I mean, they're not shy, these people.
Yeah.
What's
Send me
amazing
50.
is how quickly they say they love me. I laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's not too long after that. Can you get me a gift card? My internet's bad. My son needs a game. It's the same story all the time. But your story is unique.
Unique.
Um, and again, I want to give kudos to you for coming out and talking about it because I think it's important. The lady we had on my podcast that just launched today, she wants to get out. She's 77 years old and was scammed out of $145,000. And she wants to go after these. She wants to educate. Jonathan, the fact that you're doing this is freaking fantastic. Um,
Fantastic.
But what I
and
think should
I'm
be
going to
done.
say this: everybody's watching. Jonathan's a very good-looking man here. Okay, so if you're interested, I'll hook you up.
Thank you. Well, what I would like to say is there could be some changes to the law that would help matters. For example,
Yes.
it should not be the case that a foreign bride gets a green card after, on average, it's after 4 months. Like you
Right.
apply, and then 4 months later, on average, she gets the green card. That should not be the case. I say that actually foreign spouses should not have any advantage in terms of getting a green card. That would eliminate the incentive of scammers. And
Right.
moreover, I had to sign some pledge that I would financially support my wife, even if we got a divorce, in the event that she was on welfare. And I would say that no, if there's a divorce, the foreign spouse should be deported. That sounds mean, but it actually is beneficial to the American, which is all that should matter to American
Right,
legislators.
right.
And
Well,
that would again eliminate the incentive of scammers. They know that if they trick a man and divorce him after 2 years or so, they have to leave anyway. And
you
so,
know what? Look for a asylum here in United States. I agree with that. But when people trying to take advantage of somebody to get a green card, listen, 4 months you don't meet the requirement. Here's the ticket. Go back. You don't gonna get a green card
mhm,
because you playing the game.
yeah,
And I'm not the person to play a game. I want to have a very healthy relationship that this can live for a long time. Marriage and
yeah,
love and care for the other. You
yes,
know, don't play me because you think, oh, well, he's 40, I'm 20. I can play the game for 4 months. I get my green card. C'est la vie. No, 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 no.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but I don't play that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have to be a contract that say, listen, this I'm gonna sponsor you, I'm gonna bring you here, I'm gonna take the risk so you can get your green card, you get a job, we get a good house with a good job, both of us, bringing love and care to the house. Not the, oh, you're going to take care of me, but you have to pay me this amount of money. No, I will take care of you. We have children, fine. If not, fine too. And all I asking is to be faithful
Yeah.
and show love. You know.
And I just want to make it clear that this wasn't a case of a marriage that went sour and
Mm-hmm,
then she decided she didn't like me. Because in
mm-hmm.
that fateful dinner, the one where she tossed the red wine on me, before she did that, she wanted me to give her $3,000. And I thought she was going to say $3,000 every month. And then she changed it to $3,000 every 2 months. So evidently, she would have been fine staying married if I had told her, "Oh yeah, I'll give you an allowance of $3,000."
Let's see. No,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
no. Let me think about it. No, mm-mm. No.
No.
You did
So
the right thing, Jonathan.
yes, yes. So are you dating anybody now? Are you
Uh,
just
I am not
yeah,
actually. So it was uh, pretty much the destruction after this. Maybe it seems like it shouldn't be that significant, but it was.
yeah,
Yeah. So no, I am not.
You're
that's right.
taking your time right now. You're taking living life, enjoying your life, loving yourself. That's a good thing. Before you go deep with the 2 feet first to in a relationship, just take your time.
Well, I wish I could say I was enjoying life, but I actually wasn't. It was so devastating.
I know.
It actually sucked the joy out of life.
Yes.
Um, it
You're still young,
what was also bad,
Jonathan.
what was also bad was knowing I could be tricked like that. Because after this, I realized I can't even trust my own ability to determine if someone is tricking me. I don't have that
You
ability.
have your guard up. You have your guard up, and you don't want to get burned and hurt.
Protecting
And that
yourself.
is normal, Jonathan. That's normal
Yeah.
because it's so many evil people out there, and you don't know who is the angel, who is the evil, and you have to guard yourself because it's hard to, once you come above the water, you say, okay, everything's gonna be fine. And again, you go deep, you know, and just every single day. And this is what I tell a lot of my victims. I tell them, listen, every time you wake up, just open your eyes and realize that the Creator give you the opportunity to admire His wonders. Love yourself. Do one thing out of the time. This month, you take a day vacation somewhere. Go somewhere. Just enjoy the ocean. Just go to the ocean. Go to the river. Things like that, that you can start learning to love yourself. Because when this happened, and I'm telling you because that happened to me, and Patsy know that this happened to me. I got catfish. Thank God I never give a money to nobody. I'm very tough to give money, don't even to my kids, okay? But they have to have a big reason for me to say, okay, I will help you. And when that happened to me, I have my same car. I don't trust nobody, you know and I said, I cannot live life like that, you know? And I started learning. I went to therapy. I went to people and talk about it. I went to a group in my own community to talk about it and help others, you know? Uh, that's what you need to do. I mean, we don't want that you go again and say, oh, well, I'm here, I'm going to go in another relationship. And we have people that know what they get scammed for big amount of money and they immediately go to another relationship. And that is not healthy. You're
Yeah.
doing the right thing to take your
Yeah.
time.
And I always tell people, okay, this happened to you and it's devastating. And you will eventually get past it. I said, and you're doing this next part. Take what you've learned and help others so that they don't fall for it. And you're already doing that, Jonathan. And God bless you for that. And I am like completely blown away and honored that you would contact me and come on my podcast. I really am.
Well, thank you for
Because right
having me.
away I texted Yvette. I mean,
Oh, when
just-
she sent me everything, I'm like, girl, really? And I start reading, I start searching. I said, I'm excited to go and meet Jonathan.
Yes, I spent most of Sunday night just making sure you were real, But I gotta ask you, what was it like to be on Tamron Hall's show? I love her.
I love her.
I watch her show.
Yeah, she's great. So I was in Washington, D.C. when I got this phone call, and someone is trying to get information from me, but I don't just give out information to random people who call. But eventually I did figure out that I think they even told me that they call people on behalf of shows like this or celebrities. And so then later I had a conversation with a producer for about 90 minutes. And and then I came on the show. They had my name on a door. Of course, there's a paper sign, but they had my name on a door. And then they gave me this release to sign, but I don't just sign releases. In fact, I don't think I ever have in my entire life. So I just like crossed out huge sections of the release. And I thought if they don't put me on, then they don't put me on. But she did put me on. And,
That's nice.
And so I had the conversation. It was pretty much what you saw. And then I wanted to watch the rest of the show, but then they took me out.
Oh.
But I did see Tamron Hall a few months ago. She has a new book out, and she was doing a book signing. And so I was there with my father's cousin, and so we briefly spoke with her, and she remembered me, or at least it indicated that she remembered me, even though the show was 5 years ago. Tamron Hall, I mean.
Yeah. Have you thought of writing a book?
Wonderful.
Have you thought of writing a book?
You know what? I don't think I have.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have enough.
Yeah.
But I hope that people will watch this podcast and learn something which isn't in other books about scams. And the good news is that I've actually forgotten a lot of the terrible things that happened. So
Good.
And I am proud of the fact that I haven't tried looking up my wife or ex-wife, at least not since 2017. I don't think I've even gone to her Facebook page.
So how long you been divorced, Jonathan?
Since 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
Wow.
But she, on her Facebook page, though, one thing I do remember was that she had no photographs of me. So it was actually kind of funny because we weren't Facebook friends. And
that's funny. That's funny because my ex, he took all my pictures too. Even they have a photo album from my ex. I name it, everything. I still have it. We had a good time, and everything. It pass. Grow up. You're an adult. Just don't be a child and whining that we don't work out because things don't work out. He was an alcoholic and very verbally abused. Not the father of my kids, was the guy that I met after my husband passed away. And we broke up 3 years later. And that is when I found the catfish dude that trying to take money, made me to suppose invest in crypto and Bitcoin, and I was playing the game like I don't know what is that.
Yeah.
So I never give a money. I never click a link and nothing like that. So I was like, you know what? I'm very happy to be single. And then I crossed his Facebook and he don't have no picture whatsoever of me. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be able to sleep in wait. I went to sleep.
Well, what I meant was that even when we were married and before we got married, she had no photographs of me.
Oh, what?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's part.
What?
Yeah,
That's not a normal girl, because
Yeah,
we
so-
like lots of pictures.
yeah. So, and
Yeah.
now I realize that this was all
Yeah.
part. This was evidence that she was a scammer. That she didn't want to put. So at first, I reasoned, again, I fooled myself a lot. I said, oh, maybe she just doesn't want to have pictures of me in case it does not work out, and then she might be embarrassed in front of her friends. But no, the real reason was she just it wouldn't help her scam. So when we would go on trips, as I said, we went to Paris and
Mm-hmm.
Amsterdam, and she would have photographs. Um, I had her go skydiving. I didn't go, but I paid for her to go, and she would have that photograph, but she didn't have any photographs, like when we were in Venice of the two of
So
us.
the pictures that you sent to Patsy with her and her family, those are the ones that you keep. She don't put those in her profile.
No, she would not put any of those. Only photographs of herself alone.
What a little.
I found the picture where the mother's wearing the Confederate flag shirt.
Oh yeah, yeah.
See, I never paid attention to it. I just was like skimming through. And,
I went to other picture. I'm like, oh, nice,
Yeah,
And now that you told me that no picture was there on her profile, like a little.
No.
Yeah.
And in fact, I thought, okay, she moved to Baltimore. I had at the time a PhD student who was, closer in age to her, and I thought, well, in fact, she came to my wedding, and I thought maybe they could become friends. And my PhD student knew Baltimore, and then my wife got angry when I gave her telephone number to my students. And again, it was this because she needs to keep a separation between herself and anybody I know.
Absolutely.
So after, I guess, she went back over across the ocean, were you freaked out or scared at all, since she was probably with the Russian mafia? Did that have you freak out at all, or be concerned for your safety anymore?
I wasn't freaked out. I did say that to people that if I'm killed, she should be the primary suspect.
Yeah.
And I did do one thing in terms of closure. She said that there was a particular woman who was her grandmother, and I had that person's address. And so I wrote a letter to that person, the alleged grandmother, outlining the criminal activity of my wife. And I think that served as an indication, hey, if something happens, and I may even have said it in the letter, if something happens, she's going to be the suspect.
Yeah.
Should be rolling the dice if she does something to me.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Did you report it to the authorities, everything that happened?
Yes, they did nothing. So when she stole the stuff from the apartment, I called the police, and the police did come. But as soon as they found out that we were married, they called it a dispute. Now, it was not a dispute because at no point were we arguing about it. I dropped her off at the airport, came back to the apartment.
And everything was gone.
Yeah, and only then did I discover that almost everything was gone. And except for one table, which had a leg that we couldn't pull back. So that's the reason, a folding leg. That's the reason why she didn't take it. But she was actually pretty smart about what she took, incidentally. She also did not take the cable box for the TV. So she knew what belonged to me and what belonged to someone else. You see, if she had taken the cable box, then she could have gone to prison. Someone else's property. It's the company's property. However, I called the police, but nothing more was ever done from them. And I tried contacting the FBI a number of times, and they never get back to you. I contacted USCIS, the United States Customs and Citizenship Immigration Services. So I probably wrote every agency that you could write. The only time I got a response back was my wife claimed that she, even though I met her in Russia and she had what appeared to be a Russian passport, she claimed that her parents or grandparents came from Lithuania. And I did Google her name and found that she seems to have gotten Lithuanian citizenship. So I wrote the US Embassy in Lithuania just in case.
Yeah.
And I did get a reply from them. I think I got a reply from them. I wrote either the Lithuanian Embassy for Lithuania or the US Embassy in Lithuania. I don't remember now, but I got a reply. But they just wanted to know, did she commit some kind of crime, like crimes against humanity or something like that. That's all.
Right.
Probably affect them. My memory isn't completely clear about that, but that was the only response that I ever got from one of the embassies. So people don't care, and they should, because if you have criminals entering the United States who are connected with organized crime, that's a pretty serious problem for U.S. citizens. So I don't know
Yep.
why the FBI doesn't take it more seriously. I mean, they laugh because they think I did it to myself, haha. But it's not a
And see,
laughing.
people get no sympathy. Like we've talked about this, and I've talked about this in my lives all the time. It's like if you have a relative that's been or a good friend that's been scammed, yelling at them and putting them down is not going to help them. Be mad for 5 minutes, but then after that, give them a little support, give them a hug, give them some sympathy. Let them talk to you and just get everything out of their system.
Be the shoulder that they can lean on it and cry to you,
Yeah.
I telling a lot of people, listen, even that the authorities don't do nothing, or FBI, IC3, they get the report, you have a document that you reported just in case if something happened, so
Yeah.
your family can go and say, he told you and you did absolutely nothing, and look at where we are right now.
Also, I'm hoping that because everything's automated, at the very least, the US government has the passport image, which I have, that she used. They have the visa number. And so all of that might be in the system. And so if she were to try to come to the United States again, I would like to believe she would not be given a visa. But, I haven't checked in years and years and years. So for all I know, she could be my next door neighbor. I don't know where she is. But I'd
Right.
like to believe that she would not be allowed in the United States simply because of all that I
The
report
report.
to the government. Yeah.
Mhm.
And podcasts. So if someone were to Google her name, which I'd hope is the bare minimum the US government does when a foreigner comes to the United States,
Yeah.
this would come up.
Oh yeah.
Go,
Yeah.
oh, this Jonathan Farley guy was scammed by you. Okay, well, they may say, well, we don't know whether this is true or not, but we don't have to let you in either.
That's why me and Patsy, we adore advocating for you, because these people are going to Congress, they go to the senator, they go to the authority. Listen, this is a real serious matter.
Yeah.
This can happen to your next door neighbor, to your daughter, to your mom, to your sister, to your brother, to your uncle, to your grandfather, because these people don't matter what. They don't care about nobody. You can be 12, you can be 80, and they take advantage of you. That's why we support so much advocating for you. Kathy are doing a fantastic job, and every time she posts something, I repost it again in all my social media,
Yeah.
because it's important that people realize there are bad people out there that don't care about you.
Monsters. They're absolute monsters. I described my wife until recently as the most evil person that I have ever knowingly encountered. I've
Yes.
since met people even more evil.
Well, you know what? You're giving a nice description of her. If you ask me, Patsy have to beep every word that I'm gonna say about people like her, because it's not the regular evil or whatever. I would say she is the biggest beep, 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 and beep, 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 because I
Yes.
was I don't have no problem with that.
As I
You know.
say a lot, what a bitch. I say that to the scammers like to say, oh, my wife divorced me because, she was cheating with my
Best friend.
And my first comment is, what a bitch. I'm trying to show sympathy. But no, that's a horrible. I I'm embarrassed for my gender when this happened, but I mean, I got to
Yeah.
give you kudos, Jonathan. Keep the fight up. Welcome, as I'm going to tell you, the last two people we had on my podcast who were stamped. Welcome to the team because you're doing the right thing by keep talking about it. You said you
Absolutely.
don't remember everything. Believe me, you told us a lot tonight. A
Yes.
lot. And for everybody that's listening, the stuff that Jonathan sent me, he said I can post and I will put it out on my blog at the time the podcast is released. So you can see everything that he sent me. And the pictures are very nice, Paris and
Yes.
the
Yes.
White House and all those, and passport and all kinds of stuff. So
Yeah. I mean,
Jonathan, oh, go ahead.
thank you, Jonathan, for sharing with us your experience, your hurt, your success, your down and up. This is going to be one of the tools that we're going to use. So not only women, but men, they can come out and say, you know what, this happened to me. I need to share this. And I want to share to somebody that don't happen to the next victim. If we
Exactly.
can prevent that to a next victim, that is a win-win for everybody,
Yes, exactly.
Jonathan, do you have any parting words for us?
Yeah, the parting words are, yes, do research, but be aware that there might be more than one person that you're involved with, or other people are involved with that person. I don't really know how you protect yourself other than just not doing it. But I also don't want to say that every woman who belongs to one of these websites is a scammer. In fact,
right?
yeah, was in touch with some of the other women that I had been courting briefly, and in some cases for years. One woman I still am in touch with, and so she's not a scammer, right? Because otherwise she wouldn't be in touch with me. She's married to someone else now. So they're not all scammers. I had
Right.
bad luck, but I also don't think that the odds are that slim. I think that many of the women on these sites probably are working with organized crime.
Well,
Thank you.
Yvette, hey, Yvette, thanks for being my co-host again. You do a great job. You get
Well,
to do
thank you. Thank you.
and I just sit here and take notes for questions that I want to ask. So
Well, the thing is, when you send me the information, I study the person, I see
yeah,
the resources, I watch what you were saying,
yeah.
and I'm a good listener, so I keep a lot of questions in my mind that
I have
can
to write
be
them down.
asked.
I'm
You know,
61. I have to write them down.
girl, I'm 57. Stop it. Um,
I'm older.
so I like to get those questions enhanced because there are people that share the story that don't know how to start the story. They tell me I need to talk to you. I got scammed. I say so. I'm like with it looked
Yeah.
like a script, but it's not a script. And I'm like, how you meet the person? What happened? Tell me your story. And I'm so used to interview people and ask questions that it come, I guess, natural.
You
Plus,
do good.
I'm Puerto Rican, and I like to ask a lot of questions, so that's okay. You know. So
Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to go to my blog, pinkladyagastscammers.com, and I will have all the stuff that Jonathan sent me up on my blog by the time this comes out. Again, thank you for tuning in. And remember, they don't love you, they love your money.